Yo, what's going on, guys? Crispy Flakes here. Welcome to Extra Crispy. So it's NBA trade season. With that being said, not every trade ever ends up like working out, right, man? So for today's video, what we have is a video by Austin Sweat, link to his channel in the description below, titled "The Worst Trades from Every NBA Team This Decade." So this is gonna be covering 2011 through 2022, right, man? So yeah, for the Pistons. Bro, you take your damn pick, man. Here we go. Let's get it. If you could predict yours in the comment section below, let me know, man. But let's do it.
NBA trade season, so it's only fitting that with all the great trades we hope to see, we remind ourselves of all the terrible ones that are possible at any time.
The ones that nobody talk about.
The worst trade from every NBA team in the last 10 years. First with the Heat, who back in 2015 traded Norris Cole, Justin Hamilton, Sean Williams.
Yo, Norris Cole, bro. He had like that tall ass hair though. It was pretty cool. But bro, you got Goran and Zoran. Danny Granger was washed up. 2 first-round picks.
Danny Granger.
What they end up being?
First-round picks.
Bender,
Goran, and Zoran Dragic. And honestly, this one's not even that bad. The idea of 4 players and 2 first-round picks for basically only Goran Dragic does sound.
Dragic was a bucket though on the
fact that none
Suns.
of these 4 guys lasted more than 2 years in the NBA after the Heat traded them makes things a little better. And when you consider how much Goran did for the Heat in his time,
yeah, who was the picks, guys? Let me know in the comment
section.
section.
For him might have been a little much, but it wasn't really that bad. On the other hand, in the 2014 draft, the Chicago Bulls traded 2 of their first-round picks for Doug McDermott, and that's rough. They desperately wanted a shooter to pair with their core.
Dougie McBuckets never played for the Bulls. There's no way. This is photoshopped. Why do I not remember Dougie McBuckets ever on the Bulls?
For Derrick Rose, Jimmy Butler, Taj Gibson, and Joakim Noah. So they traded their 16th and 19th draft picks to the Nuggets that year, so they could move up and get.
I don't remember him being on that team ever.
Basketball that season. At the time, it sounded like a good move, but considering the fact that Doug only averaged 8 points a game for the Bulls,
that's probably
and the
why.
Nuggets used
That's
their
probably
picks
why.
on Yusuf Nurkic and Gary Harris, it kind of hurts. But it hurts even more to know that they later traded McDermott, Taj Gibson, and a second-round pick that would turn out to be Mitchell Robinson to the Thunder for campaign Anthony.
There's no way.
Joffrey Laverne. So they lost out on another solid pick just trying to get rid of him. With the Suns, Goran Dragic comes up again when in 2011 they trade Goran Dragic and a first-round pick for Aaron Brooks.
Oh,
who was out of the NBA for a season after only
out of Oregon, I believe, right?
So they lost out on the eventual better player and a draft pick. But I don't know
won like
what's
the
worse,
college
that or the
three-point
fact that
contest.
They traded Isaiah Thomas in 2015 for Marcus Thornton in a first, the season before he started getting MVP votes. Phoenix had a lot of shots with point guards.
Thornton was good as a rookie.
All of them for years before the whole
second season, whatever it was.
happened. For the Pacers, we all know how that goes. They traded Kawhi Leonard and Davis Bertans to the Spurs for George Hill. While the Warriors clearly haven't made many mistakes this decade when it comes to trades. So it made it pretty tough to find one, and I barely could. So the only one was that the Timberwolves originally drafted Andre Roberson, and Golden State originally traded to get him, but traded him right after to the OKC.
Oh, what a bad trade. Yeah, that just really discredits the entire franchise for the past 10 years. No, that's crazy that's their worst trade. That just shows you how great like the foundation is for the Warriors.
Good win, which in the grand scheme of things really isn't that big of a deal. For
No.
the Knicks, there were
he ain't no splash, bro.
Porzingis, Tim Hardaway Jr. and Trey Burke to Dallas for DeAndre Jordan, Wes Matthews, Dennis Smith Jr. and
what was those picks?
Now at the time, this wasn't as terrible. Dennis Smith still had potential as a young player, and he was the main piece of this trade. So him and 2 first-round picks was okay. But also at the time, Kristaps Porzingis was looking like he was on his way to stardom, and he said he had a slight problem with the team. So Phil Jackson just traded him right away instead of trying to solve the problem at all. And it makes it that much worse.
Yeah, it was time to move on from Kristaps.
Weren't good players afterwards. Smith Jr. was garbage, and they haven't gotten anyone notable from those first-round picks. One of the worst managed teams in all of the NBA is the Orlando Magic, and I'll never understand this. Victor Oladipo, Domantas Sabonis, and Ersan Ilyasova.
Oh, man. Yo, Ibaka though, man, that was my dude on OKC, man. Like, I used to love Ibaka. He's still a cool dude, but man, he was like in his prime on the OKC Thunder though. But
Oladipo was 23 and putting up 16, 4 and 4. Sabonis hadn't even played a game yet, and Ibaka was.
Who was on the Magic?
We had already seen all
trade for Ibaka.
Surge. Before the trade, Orlando already had 3 other big men on the roster, and now they had 4.
Yeah,
with Evan Fournier as their only main guard. And it serves them right that Surge only played their 56 games before getting traded again the next season for Terrence Ross and a first-round pick. The Mavericks made a mistake of their own in 2014 when they traded Jay Crowder, Jameer Nelson, Brandon Wright, and a first-round pick for Rajon Rondo.
Bad times, Rondo.
Dallas was going for a point guard and thinking they were getting the best player in this trade, but little did they know they just lost 3 players and a pick for a player who would never be that same Celtics star again and would create problems for them, arguing with Rick Carlisle and flat out
Powell's been okay
to play in the playoffs. So he was straight up let go after the season. Even at the time though, this one was still questionable because he was only putting up 8 and 8 this season before the trade. The Atlanta Hawks have been hitting on all cylinders recently in terms of drafting and acquiring players.
I'm curious if he goes with Luka Trey on this one, because I don't think he should, so hopefully he doesn't go with that.
But in 2018, they did draft Devontae Graham, but traded him for a second-round pick. Then 2 seasons later, Devontae goes and averages 18 and 7.
That's
He
right.
would have been a great backup for Trae Young.
He wouldn't have got that opportunity with Trey, though.
That second-round pick turned out to be Bol.
Bol.
They traded that pick for
Too
cash
soon.
before he was actually drafted. It's hard to believe the Bucks are at where they are today, given what they were doing 10 years ago. Like in 2013, their team was led by Brandon Jennings and
Bogut for
Monte
Curry.
Ellis,
Weren't
and
they
they
gonna do that?
actually thought they could compete, so they tried bringing in JJ Redick to help, and to do so they traded their 20-year-old rookie in Tobias Harris.
Wow.
Well, right after the trade, Tobias averaged 17 and 8 for the Magic to finish out that season, while JJ had the worst shooting season of his career and played only 28 games for Milwaukee. The Thunder's worst trade will always be the one for James Harden, and no more needs to be said. I had to really search for one.
Whoa. I mean, yes, that was the wrong choice, but I don't remember what the trade entailed of completely, but I do remember Kevin Martin was involved, and I loved Kevin Martin because he had that ugly-ass jump shot, man. Made me feel better about my own.
The Jazz, though, and all
Just a little bit
the
better,
fact
though.
that
Just
they
a little
traded
bit.
Thomas Bryant and Josh Hart to the Lakers for Tony Bradley in 2017, but they can get a pass for that. As for the Pelicans, they vetoed the Chris Paul trade to the Lakers in 2011, then came back with the hot garbage of himself for Eric Gordon, Chris Kaman.
Wait, this was the trade? I mean, Eric Gordon was fine. He had some injury issues. Chris Kaman was a decent big man for the Clips. Also had some injury issues. Alfred Camino is a basketball player. And Austin Rivers, I mean, wow. That is really garbage. I didn't realize it was that bad. But it was that bad.
Al-Farouq Aminu and a first-round pick that turned into Austin Rivers. Gordon had his best season in 2011 right before the trade. Chris Kaman only stayed in New Orleans for a season, and Aminu and Rivers didn't amount to much. And this was all for the clear best point guard in the league at the time. Now, the Los Angeles Lakers have two. The first is obvious. Russell Westbrook for a young Kyle Kuzma. Reigning...
Hey, I don't... No, then... This ain't obvious yet. This ain't obvious yet. We gotta see how the season plays out. We all knew what Kuzma was like on the Lakers. He wasn't going to blossom there with, LeBron, AD. Montrez didn't want to be there. KCP, 3-and-D, Isaiah Jackson, whatever. So, I mean, personnel-wise, yes, it's working out for the Wizards with these guys, but these guys would not have worked out with the Lakers if they would have stayed there. So, yeah, we'll see.
Sixth man of the year, Montrezl Harrell, KCP, and Isaiah.
I'm not saying it's a great trade. I don't want to see the other one as that says the worst.
And let's keep in mind, Westbrook and his $40 million a year were thought of as untradeable before this. I mean, he had just gotten traded in a 1-for-1 deal for John Wall, who really was untradeable. So it made no sense.
I'll give you all
and
Jeremy
still
Grant, a
doesn't
second
seem how
rounder.
he's played.
For
Then
him.
the other for LA was the fact that they traded the Suns 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks for Steve Nash in 2012.
That one was pretty bad, all things
and
considered.
That turned out to be a disaster.
Yeah.
Full of below-average play and injuries. Back in 2015,
lot of back injuries.
in desperate need of cap space, the Kings were finding a way to clear up some, so they traded Nick Stauskas, Carl Landry, and Jason Thompson for 2 nobodies.
Yo, Nick Stauskas, oh man, Sauce Castillo.
To the 76ers. But the bad part is they had to trade a first and 2 first-round pick swaps to get it done, and that's rough. The Jimmy Butler situation was also rough for the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Roof.
Everything about it was
Like a
terrible.
T-Wolf.
They traded 2 of their young up-and-coming stars to get him. It was a disaster while he was there, then getting only Robert Covington, Dario Saric, and Jared Bayless in return for him made it even.
Yeah, I would say that is worse than the other one because the other one is like a young Zach LaVine and Lauri Markkanen for Jimmy Butler is a good trade in the moment. But obviously you can't predict how things work out. But like personnel wise, that's a fine trade at that time. But getting this back for Jimmy Butler, I think, is way worse.
Even worse. Meaning
Yeah.
in one season they turned Zach LaVine and Lauri Markkanen into these 3 guys.
Right.
As for the Houston Rockets, well, they had a young Kyle Lowry for a few years and they didn't see much in him. It also didn't help that he didn't perform his best while he was there. But it just hurts more to see him get traded for Gary Forbes and a first-round pick.
Forbes
and then see him go
magazine.
to the Raptors to be one of their biggest franchise players over the next 10 years. Become a multiple-time All-Star and help them win a championship. The worst trade for the Spurs was obviously trading Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green for DeMar DeRozan, Jakob Poeltl, and a first-round
They were
pick.
kind of forced
Kawhi
into
Leonard
doing
was
something,
unhappy,
though.
but even with that, it didn't make this trade any better. And to see the Raptors win the title the very next year because of it had to have hurt that much more. Back in 2011, the Boston
Feel like the
Celtics
Pistons
were
are coming
still
up.
a real threat in the Eastern Conference. But that year, they traded Kendrick Perkins and Nate Robinson to the Thunder.
Yo, Ned and
who
Chris
just won
Stitch.
the non-Chris
New Jersey
Stitch and a
Nets
first-round
legend.
pick. And on paper, this was a great move by Boston. They got the younger and better player at the time who had more potential, but the Celtics were never really the same after this. Sure, they were already aging, but when asked about the trade, Paul Pierce said, "To me, chemistry is everything. It doesn't matter what type of talent you bring in or what type of talent you have on your ball club. People underrate what
2000% true.
So he really felt that them trading Perkins and Nate ruined the team's character.
That's the truth
when
right there.
Forces a trade and openly admits that they want to be traded, it puts their team in a bad spot. It usually forces them to speed up the process of finding them a trade, and that's what happened to the Cavs with Kyrie Irving. At the time, the trade was solid, and they got near MVP Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, and a first-round pick, which did turn into
not a bad trade, considering what the first round pick turned into being Colin Sexton. I mean, Colin Sexton for Kyrie, yeah, that sucks, but I mean, this could have been a lot worse, and that would have been like a bust.
Colin Sexton. But they didn't know Thomas's hip was as bad as it was, and maybe if they would have had more time.
Yeah, how the hell is that? Bro, the NBA is so damn rigged, man. Like, how the hell is Isaiah Thomas able to get traded with his hip all out of place, and the Pistons are forced to not trade for Bol because of his physical, man?
Would have figured that
like, what's
out.
up with that?
Realistically, they traded Irving for a couple of role players and a draft pick. For the Nets, we clearly know their worst trade. With the Clippers, I mentioned this one on a couple of videos in the past, but it's still just
I assume
so bad.
KG, Paul Pierce, Jason Terry.
Bad contract, so they traded him in an unprotected pick to the Cavs for Mo
Became
Williams
Kyrie,
and Mario Moon.
believe.
But little did they know next season, that pick would turn out to be first overall, aka
Yep.
Kyrie Irving. The Denver Nuggets
Loved Mario
traded
Moon.
Donovan Mitchell after drafting him to the Jazz for Trey Lyles and Tyler Lydon.
They traded Donovan Mitchell, and I believe they also had Rudy Gobert on their team. I don't know if he got traded or if that was something else, but I do remember Rudy was also on the Nuggets.
And just imagine the big three they'd have if they had not made that mistake. While the Charlotte Hornets really don't make too many trades, it's why we have to go way back to 2010 to find one for them, when they traded Tyson Chandler and Alexis Ajinga to the Mavs for Matt Carroll, Eric Dampier, Eduardo Niera, and Cash. At the time, Tyson...
No, Eduardo Nahara, that dude had like this sick-ass like running three-point shot that he could do. I remember it because my buddy, we would always go to the gym and he would always do the same thing. Like literally he would like dribble to the three-point line and do some little Euro step runner three-point thing, man. And it would always take me out because he would always bank it in. He would always bank it in.
To the Mavs for Matt Carroll, Eric Dampier, Eduardo Niera, and Cash. At the time, Tyson was a real valuable asset and is what put the Mavericks over the hump for their championship. While in return, the Hornets really got nobody. It's still questionable to me to this day why back in 2018, the Washington Wizards traded a young Kelly Oubre and Austin Rivers for Trevor Ariza.
It was just too
It's
sexy.
not like they were competitive at the time, and it's not like Ariza was going to put them over that hump. And of course, Oubre broke out soon after for the Suns. The 76ers made a bad trade in 2017 that still haunts them too, when they traded the number 3 pick and a first round pick for the number 1 spot to draft.
Yeah, what could have been here, right?
While in return, the Celtics just drafted Jason Tatum, and nothing else needs to be said.
Fultz
As
is
for
the beast, though, when
Raptors,
healthy.
well, back in 2013, they traded Jose Calderon, Ed Davis, and a second round
No
pick
way.
for Rudy Gay.
Jose?
And it was a solid move. They really didn't give up too much to get
Jose
him,
has a
and they
tweet the
tried to
other
bring
day.
in another star for their team. But ultimately, alongside DeMar DeRozan, there wasn't enough perimeter shooting.
Yo, he's saving best for the lines with the Pistons, isn't he, man?
And not
Or
enough
worse for the
touches
last.
Kyle Lowry. It was a good attempt, but it just didn't work out, so it makes the list. The Detroit
Here we go.
Pistons don't have a good history of great trades, but even they should have known trading Chris Middleton and Brandon Knight.
You know what, though? You know what? Brandon Jennings is one of the most underrated players in NBA history. You guys take a look at what he was doing for the Pistons before he had his I think it was an Achilles injury or something like that. Like he was nice. I loved Brandon Jennings. Yes, Chris Middleton became great. Brandon Knight, he went highlight reel for all the wrong reasons. But yeah, I mean this one simply was just Jennings would have been just as good as Middleton, man. Like today still, if it wasn't for injuries and stuff. So yeah, that's just victim of the moment, I guess.
For Brandon Jennings just wasn't it. Brandon Jennings did nothing for them, and years later, Chris is a
that ain't true, man.
multiple times.
Jennings was
All-star.
nice. He was nice before the injuries.
It seems like they're pretty impatient. For the Memphis Grizzlies, I'll never forget when they traded Rudy Gay straight up for John Lure. Because they just couldn't afford to keep him. I get why they did it because of the
Rudy
situation, but
Gay.
you better track your money, Memphis. Then finally, Portland's had some bad trades, but none of them have left a worse taste in my mouth than when they recently traded Gary Trent Jr. for Norman Powell. I get they play different positions and they wanted a starter to help out instead of a guy off the bench, but they are and were averaging just about the same numbers and playing.
With all due respect, I think that Norman Powell got like a pretty long wingspan, but I think he does play small forward. I actually liked him when he was playing the 2 better for the Raptors. I don't know. This trade's fine with me. I like Gary Trent Jr. to be honest. I think he got a lot of potential there, and I think he signed a pretty fair deal with the Raptors. That one doesn't bug me too much, but yeah, that doesn't. I mean, yeah, to find a trade for every single team that's just listed as absolutely bad, probably for 10 years, is actually pretty tough to do. So shout out to Austin Sweat for being able to put something together, obviously, with it. Because, you know, some trades just over the course of 10 years, like not every trade is going to be like horrible. There could be bad trades. So yeah, he did a great job with this. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Peace out, my friends.